Ugdenbog is a smelly hellhole of a swamp, full of a range of things that would love to eat you, from the cannibals to the plants or the wildlife and even ghosts. In your exploration, you may come across a note titled Mysteries of the Ugdenbog, written by an explorer sent from the Empire a very, very long time ago, that shows just how dangerous this place was even before the Grim Dawn. By decree of the Emperor of Uralon himself, I and my esteemed colleagues were set out into the wider empire to catalog the flora and fauna of its vast domain. Little did I think of it at the time, but not all assignments are created equal, as I write this from the dank and foreboding murk of Ugdenbog outside the town of Burwich. In the 3 weeks since my arrival, I've already lost 2 of my escorts too, and I am being dead serious here. Plants. Empyrean forsaken plants. I might add that my specialty has always been in the acute impact of arcane energies upon natural life, not on whether a particular vine is capable of dismembering a man in 2 while a large bloom consumes another of my team whole. If I were not weeks out from Uralon, I would have requested reassignment. The journey was not without merit, however, as I did observe some peculiar phenomena along the way. Creatures that, while seemingly natural, did not exhibit the standard range of phenotypes one would expect from this region, almost as if they've been plucked out from another place and relocated here within an instant. Most fascinating of all has been the talk of the camp now for days, a creature the locals have named Kraval, the Ancient of the Waters. Thus far, we've caught but a glimpse of one of its massive tentacles. I can only guess as to the full size of this beast, but it is enormous and quite unlike anything else found within the waters of Ugdenbog. Our journey had brought us to what I suspect is its underwater lair, and my inquisitor companion immediately began complaining of headaches, much like those she's experienced when near heavy concentrations of eldritch magic. This, combined with its unusual appearance, leads me to conclude that this creature, and others like it, are eldritch in nature. But are these manifestations the fickle playthings of the witch gods, or perhaps something else entirely? Galad Nico, Imperial Archivist. In the deepest parts of this swamp, you'll find a shining gem in the mud, Barrowholm. A perfect little town where all of its inhabitants are happy and well fed. How have they been able to survive so long in the most dangerous parts of Cairn, especially after the Grim Dawn has left most societies in shambles? You've been sent here by the witches of the Ugdenbog Coven to retrieve their stolen effigy.
Deep within Ugdenbog, to the north of our refuge, there lies a village by the name of Barrowholm. I need you to travel there. I care not for the village, only for what was stolen. We had crafted an Ugdenbog fetish within the swamp in order to protect ourselves from the wilderness. Recently, someone has tampered with it, and the only nearby settlement is Barrowholm. I do not care what you do. We must have it returned to us. Do this.
But this village is so nice, much nicer than any other place that you've seen since the Grim Dawn. Khalif, the first person that you'll see at the entrance to this town, doesn't have much to say to you other than, "Look, we don't want any troublemakers around here." Maybe, but I'll be keeping an eye on you. But a few houses forward, you'll find Markon, standing outside of his pristine house, who is much more willing to talk to you. Ah, the newcomer. A fresh face is always welcome in Barrowholm. But what desire is it that brings you all the way out here? What can I tell you about Barrowholm? As much as any, I suspect. I've been here my entire life. This place is my home. Always has been. I couldn't leave it if I wanted to. But there isn't much of interest that happens out here in the bog, if you can believe it. Things got exciting briefly when Score of Egdenor showed up some years back. Since then, things have been good for our little town. I couldn't tell you how long it's been, but some time ago, Scorv arrived here from beyond the bog. It was a desperate time for us. Too many mouths to feed, and too little food to go around. Scorv was a charmer. Everyone took to him right away. Who could blame us? He was the problem solver. He generously stayed in Barrowholm and showed us what we need to do to survive. He promised us a better life. Better yet, he delivered upon that promise. You want to talk to our leader? You'll be looking for Scorv Egdenor then. He should be somewhere around the town. I'm sure he'll be interested to meet you. We don't get visitors around here very often. Scorv Egdenor, huh? We should go talk to him. But first, there's a delicious smell coming from the house next door. Let's talk with Therese, the chef. Well, hello there, stranger. Welcome to our humble village. You look famished. Might I offer you a bowl of stew? I made it myself, right from one of Aaron's best recipes. Sure to put some meat back on those bones of yours. Excellent! I thought you might enjoy it. You have a ravenous look about you. Well, we haven't had much fresh meat around here recently, though it seems that may be about to change. Wow, some of the inhabitants are super friendly, others are,
Watch yourself, traveler. I'm simply hungry to spill some blood. Just give me an excuse.
You can find the recipe for this stew just behind Therese in a chest. A decent cut of meat is a rare sight these days, so it is imperative that we treat every opportunity to feast upon a fresh kill with great reverence. Though I found cuts from our recent quarries to be a bit tough and lean, they are not entirely unpleasant, much like freshly slaughtered deer, and while I initially found the taste nauseating, I've become increasingly fond of its delicate layers and nuances. As one of the favorite among Scorv's company, I generally had my pick of the best cuts, so I always enthusiastically go for a budget portion of leg or upper arm. I ask to leave the bone in, as it really seals in the flavor and keeps the meat juicy after cooking. Nevertheless, my recent experimentations reveal that a shorter cooking time is by far the most satisfying. With the addition of some finely chopped black onions and a gentle sprinkling of Whitemire herbs seared alongside the meat, the still bloody cuts make for an exquisite experience that is the envy of everyone in Barrowholm. The critical trick is to sear it on the outside while leaving the inside still dripping with juices. Scorv himself said that my inspirations could cure even a ravaging hunger, but I know that he just says this to keep our spirits up. I am not worthy of such praise. Arin Evelyn. She sounds like a very, very passionate chef. Okay, enough distractions. It's time to meet with this Scorv Egdenor, the revered leader of this town.
Welcome, traveler. I hope the day finds you great fortune. Do stay for a bit if you need a rest. Well, cutting right through the formalities then. And if it so happens that we have in our possession this thing you seek, why should we just hand it over? I'm afraid if you want something from us, then we are gonna need something from you. Why do you? Oh, but frankly, it comes down to reality. We live in a cruel world where many simply take what they want without any consideration for others. I see this as an opportunity for us to work together. A mutual gain. Well, I'm glad you agree. It's true, we do have this relic, and it can be yours in exchange for some trivial assistance. Things I'm sure you will have no trouble undertaking. Speak to my friends Tyvald and Jordan, and once I've heard back from them, I shall give you what you seek.
You can choose to become violent with him and take the relic back by force, but what kind of psychopath would do that? These people are so nice. You can also choose to become friendly with him and just do a few simple little tasks before he'll hand over the relic. You'll be sent to do some little errands, like repairing these broken wards all around the swamp, rescuing captured travelers, and clearing vermin out of their mine. After finishing these, you can ask how the travelers are doing multiple times, to which Jordith Evelyn will reply. They were so terrified, those poor things. We took them inside the cellars to get some fresh clothes, feed them a bowl of Arin's soup, and get them rested for tomorrow. Oh, they've been doing absolutely great, filling their rills in our little village just fine. We've been starved for some fresh arrivals until you came. So now Scorv will give you the relic that you came here seeking.
I am so pleased that we could come to an understanding here, rather than resorting to needless bickering. As promised, my stash is open to you. You're welcome to take the fetish. I am thoroughly pleased to hear that you've been mingling among our people and finding a place for yourself in our little society outsider.
But he does have another request for you.
However, not all are as willing to accept our master's visions for this region as you are. Yes, our protector, our guiding star through the tumultuous chaos. Once we were lost and dying. The bog threatened to consume us. But the Wendigo spirit showed us another way. Now, the Wendigo spirit is ancient manifestation of life itself. It has protected us for generations, all for a little harmless worship. You describe the uglier side of things, yes, but do not take the flesh-crazed as representation of the greater picture. They are but a symptom of a world that is sick. We are the true chosen of Ravager. we have been uplifted, as can you be. We've always had tense relations with the nearby gathering of witches, but so long as we stayed to our sides of the bog, we generally had no issues. In many ways, we are just as much outcasts as they are, and so we've had somewhat of a mutual understanding. But there is one among them, known as Laria the Hexer, who does not respect our little truce. Unlike her sisters, she lives within Ugdenbog itself, and from it she weaves eldritch magic in order to subdue our master's plans. In fact, it was her who damaged our totems. High time her meddling is ended. Find the den of this witch and deal with her for good.
Looks like the witches of the Ugdenbog and the settlers of Barrowholm have not been getting along for a very long time. This specific witch, Laria, has been giving them a lot of trouble. He also talks about his master, the Wendigo spirit, the Ravager, which is a little bit weird. But to each their own, let's not judge here. Before we set out on this new quest, let's take another look around the town, meet the rest of the inhabitants. Here's Arena, partaking in Barrowholm's favorite pastime, ominously standing on their front porch and never moving.
You must be the strange new visitor. I've heard whispers of your arrival. What can I do for you? Whatever do you mean, what's going on with this village? This village is in such good shape? Well, stranger, we are very devoted. We work hard and our caring leader provides us with everything we need. Yes, of course, we have, all of us, devoted ourselves to him. In return, he gives us safety and satiates our hunger. You should eat before you leave. I'd hate to see you starve to death out there in the bog. Or worse, you could end up someone else's dinner. That sounded like a threat? Certainly not. Hunger is a powerful thing. You must feed on it, or it will drive you mad. It's a lesson the flesh craved of the bog certainly take to heart.
Also, remember that stew that we ate earlier? The writer of that recipe, Aaron, can be found at the far corner of the town. What a beautiful village! Why thank you! We try to keep some normalcy in our lives despite all the tragedy. We don't see as many visitors here as we used to, but you are welcome to stay as long as you'd like. You found a recipe written by me? Aha, that old thing. I love coming up with new ways to prepare meat. Lately, I've been experimenting with serving it more raw, more off the bone. If you'll stay with us, I'd love to serve you sometime. And right next to her house is an empty building where you'll find a chest carrying a strange note. In these trying times, I often find myself in prayer. My mind fills with questions for which there cannot be answers, or if there are, could we truly be meant to know them? The gods work in mysterious ways. Our patron gives and takes, but I believe he is generous to those who follow without question. I now understand the necessities of our existence, that our choices have consequences and that we must bow our heads in reverence for all that we had been given. We can never forget that without him, we would be nothing. Our homes would be consumed by the waters of the bog, and our people devoured by the Wendigos that had succumbed to madness. From them, we must take example, for disobedience breeds death, and we must remain resolute in our commitment. You'll find Laria's den just north of the Ugdenbog Rift Gate. You have two options here. You can kill her like Scorv has requested, or you can warn her. If you warn her and let her live, she'll be very grateful and share a great deal of information with you. Is telling me ahead of time supposed to make me feel better? Or is it supposed to make you feel better? You refuse to kill me? Well, that is certainly a relief. Though knowing now that the Wendigo fanatics are out to get me does not bode well for my efforts here. Perhaps it is best if I avoid any confrontations for a while. Lay low. I don't know why you're working with them, but you came to warn me, so I suppose I won't ask. Please tell whoever sent you that I'm dead. I will make sure that I am not found. Thank you. It's no secret that the Wendigo spirit is a malevolent being, and it seems to have found new allies within the people of Barrowholm. While my sisters in the coven are sitting idly by while this unfolds, I refuse to, so I set out on my own, and I began to sabotage Barrowholm sorcery. It was pity things at first, but they seemed to be building up to something big, so I was going to step up my efforts. I suppose this is why you were sent here. Take my advice. Stay as far away from those people as you can. When you return to Barrowholm to let Scorv know of the news,
You won't find him in his normal spot. Instead, he'll be at the altar at the very north of the town, dressed in some crazy clothes with a few of the townsfolk behind him.
Have you dealt with that pest yet? The time for deceptions is over. Today, we gather to honor the great Wendigo spirit and prepare for his glorious return. So you did then. A Ravager will be interested to hear of this.
Well, let's see what the other guys have to say.
All of our efforts, all of our sacrifices have come to this moment. Blood shall spill and we shall feast upon flesh.
Today is a glorious day for us all.
Blood shall spill, and the Great One shall feast. We're all but servants before him.
The vibe of these townsfolk are really changing right now. Let's talk to Scorv again to see what we can do to become more friendly with the town.
While the Ethereals and Chthonians are both our enemies, none discuss the Great One as the Chthonians do. Slaughter them by the hundreds, and you shall earn the favor of Ravager.
The Ravager is a name that keeps coming up with these people, also known as the Great One or the Wendigo Spirit. In the forlorn cellar beneath Barrowholm, you'll come across a note simply titled The Ravager. Injustice, that is the tale of the Great One. Injustice and betrayal. Ravager once walked among us, a beautiful creature, the embodiment of nature's balance. He thrived among his worshippers and bestowed upon them many gifts, but he was not the only one to be blessed with such power. The god of beasts, Mogdragon, grew jealous of Ravager's believers. In the darkness of night, the god sought out Ravager's lair, and with the aid of his slaves, he banished the Great One from this realm. Bodiless and forgotten, Ravager threw himself against his spiritual prison. He sought to return to this realm and right the wrongs done to him. And through our sacrifices, the day of his judgment has nearly come. We shall become the harbingers of his will, the benefactors of his mercy, and when Ravager's jaws close shut around the throat of the betrayer, so shall we drink of his blood and rise above our lessers. According to this note, the Ravager is some sort of ancient creature who was growing in power and gaining followers who he would share his power with very quickly. So quickly, in fact, that the god of beasts, Mogdragon, who is now followed by the modern-day rovers, had to slay and banish the Ravager out of this world, perhaps out of fear or maybe just out of jealousy. It looks like this ancient spirit has been able to come into contact with some of the people of Barrowholm who are now worshipping him for his gifts. While you're in the forlorn cellar, you're surrounded by a bunch of these weird monsters. What are they? You'll also be able to find a note called "Through Flesh We Become His Chosen." I did not always relish the taste. At first, I found it repugnant. The muscle was tough and the flavor made it difficult to swallow, especially when it was raw. But Scorv insisted that to truly embrace the gifts of the Great One, we must learn to enjoy it in its natural state, rather than resorting to seasonings or flame. I was resistant, as were the others, but in time I came around to embrace the feeling of fresh blood seeping between my teeth, the iron taste of gore upon my tongue. Hunger helped that a bit, I'm sure, but now I feel chills at the thought of a fresh victim. I believe this is what Scorv meant when he said we would become closer to our master. The thrill, the energy, the change. I feel the change. It grows inside of me. I began with a darkening of the eyes, like a deep crimson. Others further along in their journey had expressed concerns about some bone pain throughout their body. Scorv reassures us that this was normal and will pass. Whatever changes it brings, I now anticipate them with a nervous joy. I wish only to become closer to Ravager, Lydia. If you do what Scorv suggests, slay a bunch of chthonic monsters, you'll become honored with the Barrowholm faction and unlock a new quest.
The Ravager is pleased by your service to the cause, outsider. He wishes to reward you with a special hunt. The eve of Ravager's return will soon be upon us, and the Wendigo's hunger shall be unquenchable. We cannot truly fulfill his ravenous needs, but we can at least appease them for a time. But not just any meal will do. We must have the hearts of 3 Wendigo ancients, known as Handaroth, Olivioth, and Uvaloth. These creatures have long ago outlived their purpose and must now perform one final duty for Ravager. The great Wendigo spirit has called to them and drawn them out of hiding amidst Ugdenbog and Gloomwald so that you can perform the necessary rites. Bring me their hearts. Appease the great spirit. Have you done as Ravager asked? You will find Handaroth roaming the wilds of Gloomwald. Olivioth and Uvaloth will likely be found among the poisonous fumes of Ugdenbog itself.
You'll find these targets all throughout Gloomwald and Ugdenbog. Upon slaying them and collecting their spirits, you can return to Scorv, who will be very pleased with your work.
The stench of rotting hearts follows you, outsider. Come, bring them to me. Yes. We would not want to waste a perfectly good corpse now, would we? You must have chased her far. Ravager will enjoy her heart. Yes, these should satisfy Ravager's hunger for a time once he is reborn. Now be gone, outsider, before I give in to my urges to gut you with my knife. It is Ravager. I do not know what I had done to scorn the Great One, but here, on the hour of his imminent return, the spirit demanded that the honor of selecting a chosen to serve as his flesh and blood go to you. To you, an outsider. The three have already come forward. The blood of one of them shall serve as the catalyst, and the flesh will feed the Wendigo. It falls to you. Will it be Orin who performs the final rite? Or her brother, Jordith? Or perhaps Tyval? Speak to the chosen and decide. Although it pains me to lose an acolyte, it truly does, it is ultimately the will of Ravager that we all must serve. The Great One shall feast upon their flesh, and through it he shall be born anew.
Scorv seems to be the speaker for this Ravager creature, and he is pissed right the f off at you because his deity has picked you to choose the final sacrifice that will re-summon him. You have the option of Jardith, Arin, or Tyvald, all members of the town that you've interacted with before. Let's see what they have to say about this. And so we arrive at this critical junction. I have been preparing for this moment and I'm ready to offer myself in the service of Ravager. Scorv informs me that it is Ravager's will that you decide who is the most worthy, so tell me, whom do you choose? Why am I the most worthy? I am by far the strongest within Barrowholm. None can hope to match my bloodlust or skill with a battle axe. I personally hunted down countless fiends within Ugdenbog and fear nothing that Ravager would require of me. I will sacrifice everything for Ravager and spill an ocean of blood in his honor. The energy in the air, the anticipation, I can hardly stand still. Tell me, whom will you choose as Ravager's offering? I must know. Why should you choose me? Well, Scorv may be our leader. It was I who orchestrated our schemes to draw travelers here. It was I who studied the tomes and learned the rituals. What we have here today is everyone's achievement, but more so my own. It is now my duty to serve Ravager in this ultimate task. Shall we join in blood at this glorious event? Will we partake of flesh and become closer to our god? I know that Ravager has selected you to decide between his favored children, but I cannot help but wonder why. You are not of our people and have not partaken of the flesh. So who will it be? About those travelers? Yes, they were quite filling, but nothing good lasts forever. Soon enough, we'll have to find some more. Why should you choose me? Well, Tyvald may be our protector, and my sister the sage. I am the faithful successor to Scorv himself. My devotion to the great Wendigo goes beyond the others. I sacrificed upon the altar. I gave my own blood to bring the Ravager closer to us all. This next sacrifice is only the next logical step in my spiritual journey. So you can pick any one of these guys to sacrifice. It has no real impact on the story or lore, but it will impact what type of Ravager will be summoned if you plan on fighting him.
Think about this carefully. Who shall serve as the Ravager's flesh? Ever devoted, Jordith is Ravager's perhaps most zealous follower. A fitting conclusion to his prayers.
What is this little thing that stands before me. Have you come to offer yourself to a god? I will indulge your curiosities. What am I? I am the hunger, the giver, and the taker, but none who receive my gift hunger ever again. You stand before a primal force of nature made manifest. You wish to be remade in my image, to offer your soul to the Wendigo? An amusing request, but one I shall not grant you. You entertain me, human, but you reek of ethereal corruption. It is only by the mercy of all you have done for my servants that I do not tear you apart where you stand. The primordial servant may have left your body, but it has also left its mark. You are tainted, broken, not even worthy of standing before me. When this world is scoured of the dead gods and their pathetic servants, the likes of you shall be next. You will take insults from me? Is that so? Does the worm wish to rise above the dirt and fly as a bird? Wishes do not change our situation. Learn your place and appreciate that you still live. What is my will? I shall begin by hunting down the one who scorned me. The beast god will suffer for his transgressions. Then we shall scour this world clean of the dead gods and their pathetic servants. What has MacDrogan done? At the peak of his power, the beast god strove to rule over the nature as he saw fit. Others like myself rose to oppose him. Many fell. My body was destroyed and my disembodied form forced to roam the Veil for millennia. But I have returned, and my vengeance shall be absolute. Did I see the Grim Dawn coming? If I told you that I sensed the great unrest stirring just beyond the Veil for some time, will that make you feel better about all that's transpired? Humans amuse me, and some are even useful, but I see no purpose in altering your fate, except perhaps to deny my enemies your lives as a resource. But that can just as easily be done with your deaths. Why do we hate Chthonians? They seek claim to the blood that is rightfully mine. I shall feast upon the marrow of their bones, and the blood they have gathered will briefly sate my endless hunger.
Well, that was an interesting conversation. You can also fight the Ravager, but he is a celestial boss, one of the hardest endgame bosses in the entire game, so I'll let you figure that one out yourself. It looks like our duty is done here in Barrowholm, but before we go on to our next adventure, let's have one final chat with Scorv.
You have pleased Ravager with your actions, outsider. When this world is scoured of unbelievers and fiends, perhaps you too shall be among the chosen few who will rise up from the ashes.
You have questions? There are no secrets between us. What is Ravager? Ravager is as old as Cairn, the primal embodiment of hunger, of life and death, the vicious cycle of predator and prey. Wrongfully scorned by the beast god, Ravager is forced to hide within the shadows. But he has returned to us, and with our worship he rivals even the gods. What is Ravager's plan? With his body remade, Ravager will rid this world of the chthonic taint that threatens to steal the precious blood that is rightfully his. Then all shall bow before their god, or be extinguished. What's next for Barrowholm? With our god manifested, we shall thrive unchallenged. None can hope to stand against us now, but we only shall go where Ravager commands. How did I come to serve the Ravager? Oh, that old tale. I was a traveler much like yourself, but unlike you, I was not one for battle. I had a partner back then, her name was Jessa. Together, we foolishly wandered into Ugdenbog and got lost. We roamed for days, sometimes circling back to where we were days before. The water was poison, the only food was more likely to eat me back than offer me any substance. I'm not sure who got the idea first, but we both eyed each other with a ravenous hunger fueled by desperation. I overpowered Jessa and plunged my knife into her heart. As her blood oozed out of her wound and she choked on her last words, I drank deep of the crimson. I ate well that day as tears poured down my face. The next night, my dreams were plagued by feverish visions. I was visited by a spirit. It smiled at me with a wide grin and offered solace in my misery. It said that my soul was forfeit for what I had done, but that need not be the end. It offered me an anguished tale of its banishment and how it desired only to return to the mortal realm. With my help, its aspirations could become reality. In return, it offered salvation from my cursed fate. I willingly agreed. On that day, I became the Herald of Ravager. So what about Barrowholm? Barrowholm was merely the start. Empowered by the Wendigo and guided by a new destiny, I set out to grow Ravager's following. He pointed me towards a nearby village, which had been struck by famine and was growing increasingly desperate. Separated from the other towns by Ugdenbog, its people made an easy target. So I tricked them? That is such a strong word. I merely offered them a way out of their very difficult predicament. Barrowholm had never been more prosperous. Okay, yep, that's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.